Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Eva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Yapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhusya Saka Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravinam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Bharavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we have some guests tonight. I wouldn't say they're new, but in order to get an understanding of where we are and what the intention of this text is, just a quick way to situate it. This is a capstone text. This is not for beginners. It's not even for intermediate students. It is designed for those who have had those experiences where the mind has thundered to a stop. The attentive faculty is introverted, and the mind sees there's nothing there. I am witnessing consciousness, that empty space, not a person. Now, as we do our practice, understand only the ego can do spiritual practices. So we are told to become a yogi. A yogi is someone who seeks union. To become a mumukshu, a seeker after liberation. The ego can't help it, but it will conceptualize. It will say, I want to be realized. I want to be a realized person. I want to be like the saints. No blame. It's just wrong. To try to be a realized person is thinking you can attend your own funeral. It's like the person who's contemplating suicide. Oh, I can't wait to see Aunt Mary sitting there in the front row. She's going to know it's all her fault. I just can't wait to see how terrible she feels. No, dude, you won't be there. Am I making sense? So it's not like here's the self and here's the ego. Oh, I'm getting there. I'm getting closer and closer, closer. Oh, I'm a realized person now. Come touch my feet. I want a jewel turban and give me all your money. No. I'm a seeker after liberation, and I wear away the ego, and I wear it away, and I wear it away, I wear it. So at the moment of realization, we have it as the last one of the four Mahavakyas, the great utterances. Aham Brahmasmi. It doesn't say I know Brahman. It doesn't say I'm a saint. It says I am Brahman. And what is the mark of the man or woman of realization? They know they're not a person. So as we get deep in the self, there's still a subtle egoistic thought. Is this it? Do I know? Or don't I know? Or you may even have the stench of second mind. I think I know something pretty significant. I'm a realized person. It's very obnoxious. And this text removes the mumukshu. Now, you don't want to get rid of the seeker after liberation when you're a beginner or an intermediate student. You get caught what I call the Vedanta logic loop. Oh, it's all an illusion. There's nobody there doing the yoga. You know, it doesn't matter whether I smoke dope. It doesn't matter if I scream and yell at people. It doesn't matter if I hurt others because it's all an illusion. That's not freedom. What we seek is liberty, not license. There's a difference. All right, any thoughts on this? Because here, the scripture is going to say, why are you meditating? What are you going to try to accomplish by doing sadhana? Who is it who's all worried about it? It's all Maya. And for those who have deeply rooted experience, it's true. Let all that stuff go. Give up the struggler. All right, Mark, where are we in our text?
Chapter 18, verse 14.
Chapter 18, verse 14. I don't have any other texts for those people who are visitors. I'm sorry. Is there one more on the table?
There's one more.
Does anybody want it?
I can.
And this is a dialogue between Janaka and Ashtavakra. In this particular story, Ashtavakra is the teacher and he enlightens King Janaka. But in other stories, it goes either way because they're both great sages. Going on.
Page 309. Kva moha kva cha va vishvam, kva tadhanam kva muktata, sarva sankalpa simayam, vishrantasya mahatmanah. Where is delusion? Where is the universe? Where is its renunciation? Or where is the liberation itself for the noble-minded one who rests beyond the world of desire agitations.
Yes. So in the end, both bondage and liberation occur to the mind. The self is ever free. Looking back after we wake up, the bondage was just like a nightmare. It wasn't real. And when I woke up from the dream of this world, well, it's gone. And there's nothing to take up, nothing to renounce. You just put the bodies, the equipment on automatic pilot. Let it fulfill its function in the society. No investment in the outcome anymore. With the deep, abiding peace of being free from struggle. Next one.
येन विश्वम् इदं दृष्टं स नास्ति ते करोतु वै निर्वासन किं कुरुते पश्यन्नपि न पश्यति. He who sees the universe may try to obliterate it. What has desireless to do? What has the desireless to do? He beholds it not, even though he sees.
Yes. So the person who thinks the universe is real needs to deal with it. Oh, those nasty objects of desire, I've got to give them up. Oh, attachment, I got to get rid of that. It's nasty. But for the person who sees the fundamental unreality of the phenomenon, there's nothing for anything to cling to hang on to. Waves of thought and feeling arise and they go. It's all like a dream. The only time we get in trouble is when I hook that I thought on it. Now, that's a dream too. That's what causes me to have suffering. And here he talks about being beyond the vasanas. Vasana is a subset of samskara. It is an impression left in the unconscious as the result of previously performed egoistic actions of I-ness and minus. And a vasana has two powers. The first is a varana shakti, veiling power. When the mind is under the influence of vasana, I do not know I'm deluded. I do not know I am Brahman. Next comes the Vikshepa Shakti, the projecting power. What does the mind project? I'm a person. You get a microcosmic experience of this at night. You go to bed and you're the waker. Punch my pillow, very nice. Next comes a Varana Shakti. We call it deep sleep, which is the non-apprehension of yourself as the waker. Then comes the projection. All of a sudden, I'm the dreamer. and the dream objects seem real. My dream body seems me, and I have feelings and thoughts and reactions based on it. Seen, but not real. You wake up in the morning and the dream is negated. Boy, that was a vivid dream. Oh, phew, thank God it was just a dream. This is no different. This is no different. Next one.
येन दृष्टं परं ब्रह्म सोऽहं ब्रह्मेति चिन्तयेत् किं चिन्तयति निश्चिन्तो द्वितीयं यो न पश्यति. He who sees the Supreme Brahman meditates upon I am Brahman. He who has transcended all thoughts, and when he sees no second, what should he meditate upon?
Yes. So when we have our initial openings, we have deep meditations, we go on a retreat, you have an experience, oh, I see it. But then I come back, get re-identified. The instruction is meditate on I am Brahman. This particular issue is addressed in Vivekachudamani in verse 267, one of my favorites. Even after realization of the truth, there exists a strong impression that one is the doer and the enjoyer, which is the cause for rebirth. Here, rebirth means I get re-identified. It needs to be conscientiously rooted out through steady and continuous identification with the self. It's the annihilation of the vasanas here and now that's considered liberation by the wise. So that's the first step that he's talking about. But once we have stita prajna, steady wisdom, we now give up even that. Give up even that. When you see, you never lose yourself. It's always here. When you ever not you. So that is a subtle form of practice. You're still trying to go from point A to point B. Spiritually, it is of value at one point, but then we have to let it go. Now again, listen carefully. The seeker is seen to do spiritual practices so that he may purify the mind and realize the self. But the person of steady wisdom may also be seen to be doing practices. It does not add to her knowledge of the self. It's just the highest form of worldly pleasure. She does it because she enjoys it. She can't be attached to it. Subtle, subtle points. Next one.
दृष्टो येनात्मविक्षेपो निरोधं कुरुते त्वसौ उदारस्तु न विक्षिप्त Sadhya bhava karoti kim. He who experiences distractions in himself indeed must control himself. For the noble-minded great one is not distracted at all. Having nothing to accomplish, what should he do?
Yes. So the surface part of the mind may continue to be engaged in vyavahara, business with the world. But as it were, the backside of the mind is completely empty. There's no investment. I like to use the expression, the person of steady wisdom is out of control. She's given up controlling anything. Now, again, this is not licensed to be a jerk. Don't ever forget, however deep your realization, the dharma of the body is karma. If you speed on the freeway, I don't care how deep your samadhi is, you'll probably get a ticket. If you punch a cop, don't complain if they put you in jail. It may not touch you, but you'd probably be better off not punching a cop. And the woman of steady wisdom has no need to fight or defend or protect. That doesn't mean they're a doormat. They can move through the world in a healthy way. Any thoughts on this? Next one.
धीरो लोकविपर्यस्तो वर्तमानोऽपि लोकवत् न समाधिं न विक्षेपं न लेपं स्वस्य पश्यति. The wise man, though living like an ordinary person, is the reverse of the common man. He sees neither absorption nor distraction nor involvement of himself.
So he sees none of it, and he may be seen to be doing any of it or all of it. He may be shopping at the supermarket, riding the bus, going to work at her job, or deep in meditation. I think it's in Plato's Symposium. I'm convinced that Socrates was a realized person. But there's a wonderful description. They're laughing at Socrates because he's late for the dinner party because he went to the wrong house. He was just spacey. And they said he was standing there on the porch of the other house with his eyes wide open, unblinking, just lost, gone. It's a wonderful description of a person in samadhi, eyes wide open, just gone. He came back and, oh, I'm at the wrong house. So he goes to the right house, and then they have the symposium, the party. I just love it. It's one of my favorite stories of Socrates. I was being interviewed. This is 2, 3 years ago. There's one of the Swaminis in the Chinmaya mission wanted to interview some of us Westerners who worked directly with Swamiji. And there was one fellow in the panel that I did not know, mainly because he moved on and worked with Swami Dayananda. So he was not in the mission when I would have had a chance to know him, but he was there kind of driving Swamiji around on his first visit to the United States. And he was in a hotel room, Swamiji was, and this fellow had the room next to him. And how do you take care of the Swami? What do you do? He had no idea. So he knocks on the door and there's no answer. So he opens the door and comes in. And the television in those days, it was, the old cathode ray tube ones. And in whatever channel it was on, it was all snow, You youngsters probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But us oldies, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I know too.
And Swamiji was just sitting there and his eyes wide open. Seeing, that fellow comes up and he goes, Swamiji doesn't even react. Gate, param, gate, gone, completely gone. He didn't know what to do. So he turned the channel so there was a program and it left. And yet he'd turn around and be able to multitask better than anyone I've ever seen. Answered every letter written to him personally. Thousands of disciples around the world. Only slept 4 hours a night. Would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do his correspondence. Wrote 40 books. Amazing man. But not attached to samadhi. Next verse.
भावविहीनो य तृप्तो निर्वसनो भूतः नैव किञ्चित् कृतं तेन लोकदृष्ट्या विकुर्वता. He who transcends existence and non-existence, who is wise, contented, free from desires, does nothing, even if he be acting vigorously in the eyes of the world.
Yes. So Gita has this wonderful language. What is action in the midst of actionlessness and actionlessness in the midst of action? So the body, mind, intellect is always acting. Who is the actor? Guna and karma, the qualities of mind and the force of the past. There is no real person there doing the doing. And the self never moves. It is kutastha, immovable like a mountain. You are the still point, and the world passes in front of you. Always changing. It never touches you. The body, mind, intellect fulfills its purpose, its function, its karma in the world. But for the jnani, it's like my shadow. On a sunny day in the afternoon, my shadow is very long. I am so proud of my shadow. It's an overcast day. I don't have a shadow today. Nobody thinks that. So if your equipment, Swamiji called it the BMI, the body, mind, intellect, the world thinks it's successful, so what? If the world heaps criticism on it, so what? None of it touches you. Next one.
प्रवृत्तौ वा निवृत्तौ वा नैव धीरस्य दुर्ग्रहः यदा यत्कर्तुमायाति तत्कृत्वा तिष्ठत सुखम्. The wise one who lives on happily, doing what comes to him to be done, does not feel trouble, uneasy either in activity or in inactivity.
Yes. One does the next right thing, whatever's right in front of you. What does that mean? We don't plan? You can make a plan. But if you want to know if God has a sense of humor, make a plan. What's the old slogan? Man proposes, but God disposes. Gita says, I am the karma phaladata. I am the giver of the fruits of action. Go ahead and plan. You do that in a now. But be perfectly prepared for something completely different to happen, because it will change. It will be different. And none of it touches you. You're free. You're safe. It's all going to be okay. It is okay. Any thoughts? Next one.
निर्वासनो निरालम्ब स्वच्छन्दो मुक्तबन्धनः क्षिप्तसंस्कारवातेन चेष्टते शुष्कपर्णवत्. Blown by the wind of effects of the past action, samskaras, the desireless, independent, free, and liberated person moves about like a dry leaf.
Oh, this is one of my favorite metaphors. I've used this in other classes. You have heard it. So the imagery compares a brown colored moth with a dry leaf. So the brown colored moth it's alive. It goes flap, 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 flap. It can fly around. The leaf blown by the wind looks almost the same. But the moth has an agent doing the doing. That's like you and me when we're ego prompted. But the person of steady wisdom, Vastita Pragya Purush, like the leaf, alone and She has no idea what's going to happen next and doesn't care. It's all being driven by guna and karma, the force of past actions, the quality of mind, as it interacts with the greater karmic predicament, the environment, the society. And then she acts from intuition. When we've silenced the loud trumpets of raga and dvesha, I must have it this way, I'll never have it that way. Then this, as the prophet Isaiah calls it, the still small voice, your intuitive sense of rightness. Well, Jim, how do I know if what I'm doing is the right thing? Who's had that doubt? Usually, doing the right thing brings us peace. And it may be illogical. What? You're quitting a really good job that pays $250,000 a year to go to Africa and build houses for poor people? Yeah. Why? I don't know. It just feels right. Any thoughts? But the more we live from that intuitive center, the more we come to trust it. And the jnani trusts it implicitly. All right, next one.
असंसारस्य तु क्वापि न हर्षो न विषादता न शीतलमना नित्यं विदेह इव राजते. Never is joy or sorrow for one who has transcended the worldly experiences. Tranquil in mind, he lives like a one without a body.
Yes. So the worldly joys, worldly sorrows no longer afflict the person. They're unafflicted by desires. Now, only you can discern the distinction between a preference and an insistence. Preferences aren't particularly problematic. I had an Asiago bagels toasted with cream cheese this morning. That was my preference. But if the bagel shop had been closed, no big deal. Or if they were out of Asiago bagels, no big deal. But other times, gotta have it this way. Can't have it that way. And that's because we've lost sight of where is happiness. Happiness is my swabhav, it's my self-nature. It's not in the world. The world is shunyata, void, empty. I just use the objects of the senses to get a little hit, a little shot, a taste of my own self-nature. We went into that in depth when we studied Panchadashi, this Vishayananda, the bliss we get through the sense objects. Sense objects aren't evil, they're not bad. They're just inherently void. Do I experience a little hit of happiness when I come in contact with an object of desire? Of course. But it's really just a taste of myself. That's all. Next one.
कुत्रापि न जहासास्ति नाशो वापि न कुत्रचित् आत्मरामस्य धीरस्य शीतलाच्छतरात्मनः. The wise who delights in the self, whose mind is serene and pure, has no desire to renounce anything whatsoever, nor does he feel any loss anywhere.
Yeah. So the term here that the scripture is using is Atmaramana. The root is Ram Ramati, to revel. So Ramana Maharshi is the great soul who revels. The god Rama, pure revelry. So the person of steady wisdom, because they're free from the afflictions of attachment, craving, of aversion, of fear, the mind easily rests in the self. Get that Brahmananda Rasaswad, the taste of the juice, the bliss of Brahman. Now, where does that go when you go to sleep? Calm. It's a mind state. It comes and goes, has qualities and characteristics. Sometimes it's deeper than others. The beauty of it is there's no end to how deep the mind can revel. You can't be attached to it and be jonesing for it, because then you're caught struggling again and it will recede. It's very paradoxical. Next one.
प्रकृत्या शून्यचित्तस्य पूर्वतोऽस्य यदृच्छया प्राकृत्यस्येव धीरस्य न मानो नावमानता. Void in mind by nature and doing what comes of itself unasked, the wise one, unlike a common man, is not affected by honor or dishonor.
Yep. No thing. It's so burdensome trying to be spiritual. I'll be very honest with you. Most of the time I avoid spiritual gatherings because everybody's trying to impress everybody else with how spiritual they are. And you see how shiny my halo is? Look at my high beam eyeballs, or I'm so peaceful, and I wear tie-dye. No, rather be authentic. The mark of the Stita Prajna is they're incredibly natural. They're at home with anyone and anything. They're not trying to be anything. There's no more agenda. They're natural. They're authentic. So if you're Brahman, then you don't have to live up to anything anymore. You're already perfect. But if you're trying to be spiritual, how am I doing? Have I, passed from point 8 to point 9 on the spiritual scale? Do I have siddhis? Nonsense. The only siddhi worth having is Paramashanti, supreme peace of mind. How does that come? Give up struggle. Technical word for it is kartavya. The literal translation is obligatory actions. I think I have to do this, or I have to do that, or I have to refrain from this. I need to fix the world or fix me, fix other people. All of that is gone. Any questions? Thought I heard a question coming. All right, next one.
कृतं देहेन कर्मेदं न मया रूपिणा इति चिन्तानुरोधीय कुर्वन्नपि करोति न. One who acts in conformity with thoughts such as, this is done by the body and not by me, the pure self. Such a person, even though acting, does not act.
Yes. So the body will fulfill its prarabdha karma, its own allotted actions in the world based on the force of the past. It will get its success and failures, its sickness and its health, its honor and its dishonor, its allotment of conducive and non-conducive environments. But the jnani doesn't care. They're content. They're content. Next one.
अत द्वादीव कुरुते न भवेदपि बालिशः जीवन्मुक्तः सुखी श्रीमान् संसारन्नपि शोभते. The liberated in life, even though acts like one, who does not say why he is acting so, is not thereby a fool. He flourishes in the world and is happy and even blessed.
Yes. So the Jivan Mukta doesn't even know why they act sometimes. I can remember I was working with this one guy, I won't mention his name, and he was a psychotherapist. And he was sitting in that chair. I was sitting over there. He got nervous when I would sit here for some reason. All right, I'll sit over there. And, there was a power dynamic that began to develop. And so I said, well, Jim, why did you say that? What's going on with you that you said that? And I had to tell him the truth. I don't know. Literally, I have no idea. That's just what came up. He didn't particularly care for that answer. But the Stita Pragya, they're like, I like to use the phrase, they're out of control. I have no idea how the equipment's going to act for a moment. And no particular concern about it. Even if behavior arises that may upset another person, doesn't mean you can't apologize and say you're sorry. But it's what happened. Let me give you a real live world example. So back when I was music director at St. Augustine's, I had this fellow who was the accompanist for my Mass Saturday afternoons. He'd forgotten more about music than I will ever know. Absolutely brilliant musician. And it was an enormous honor because he could have worked anywhere. We didn't pay that well, but he liked the way I made music. So came and played Mass. It's 5 o'clock on Saturdays. And he was supposed to be there at 4:30 for rehearsal. And one day he comes waltzing in at 20 or maybe 4:45. And I gave him the stink eye. You're late for rehearsal. He says, yes. Sits down at the piano, and I got to see, oh, Jim, you want to punish him. And he wouldn't be punished. He just let it go. Much better yogi than I that day. Mm. It was fabulous to see. He just wouldn't take it on. Yes, he was late, but he was not going to be guilty. He was not going to be shamed. He was not going to justify, excuse, or defend, or explain. Let's get to the music. Wonderful, wonderful. That's the ideal. Any thoughts on that?
So you mentioned earlier that don't be a jerk, don't you not have agency to be. So how does this body pradavya fit into this what you're describing? And we act, and the body's karma act that way? We just now.
Well, it wasn't that he blew it off. I mean, he had something legitimate that he had to do, but what he wasn't going to do was feel guilty about it.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I was talking a little abstract from that. You were describing once the realization happened, the body will still continue to act from its, vasanas.
Well, the vasanas are roasted. It will continue to act. But I'm not quite sure I understand the question. Does that mean you're always going to be a goody-goody? Probably not. But it's one thing that we do things in the world that hurt other people, as opposed to doing things in the world to hurt other people. Now, I was not at all attached to him feeling crappy, but it did arise, and this one's mine. I'd be, bullshitting if I didn't say it didn't. And I let it go for me too. But the whole point was, even though my reaction was to punish, he wouldn't take it on. He was the better yogi that day. Is that helpful?
Yes.
One of the first real demonstrations of our capacity to let go of a personal sense of self is our willingness to tell the truth when the personality shows up with a flaw. If you're afraid to admit you've screwed up, who's worried about it? Very interesting point.
Interesting one also that it's subtle in the sense what you just said, but also how often the mind will go, I can't tell the truth because that's gonna hurt that person more than if I just keep it. And that's another thing that I can grab onto, but it's
But then you have to just trust your intuition.
right.
Sometimes the other person get their feelings hurt can be an act of love.
Okay.
So for example, when I'm working with someone who's trying to quit drinking, and they in fact are an alcoholic, it's an act of love for me to point out what the symptoms of alcoholism are and say, you're probably an alcoholic. That may hurt them very deeply, but it may save their life. See what I mean?
Yeah, very much.
I had a phone call with a dear friend who's a black belt in Al-Anon. And my phone wasn't working yesterday afternoon. It was the weirdest thing. It wouldn't, it would ring, but then I'd pick it up and I go, hello, and there'd be nobody there. And then it would ring again and did the same thing. And I don't know what it is, but I was busy doing accounting on the computer. So finally but the only technological thing I know to do, which is reboot, and it worked.
The phone was in Samadhi.
Anyway, my friend who lives in West Palm, Florida, was beside himself. He thought the phone answered, but I never said anything. So his mind catastrophized. And he thought I'd had a stroke and was lying on the floor. So he's calling all my friends and he calls the police, And then I call him back and I said, no, my phone wasn't working. Then he goes off on me. He's angry at me. You need to give me your emergency number, and you're 3,000 miles away, No, I'm not going to do this, So, and I did not take on his stuff, but my action hurt his feelings. I said, this is your issue. I'm not going to go there. You need to stop it. And we're fine. We talked this morning. But, and I know he loves me and I know it was concern, but he kind of went from 0 to 90, in a matter of 2 phone calls. These things happen. I can remember a conversation that Swamiji had with one of his disciples. There was a couple. And in fact, the wife was one of the first Western disciples of Swamiji, was instrumental in bringing him to the West. And the husband came to Swamiji and says, Swamiji, my wife has decided that she's brahmachari, and we haven't had sex in 10 years. And Swamiji said, I did not know this. This is not right. She has a duty to do. So just because he was a deeply realized soul didn't mean he knew everything. It was a very human kind of thing. You know, yes, our heads should be in the infinite with our feet firmly planted on the ground. But be in the world, but not of it, as the Master Jesus says. Or Krishna in Gita says, this knowledge makes you master of this world and the beyond. It's not about running away from relationship, responsibilities, or anything. Now, you can be like Ramana Maharshi and go decide to live in the basement of a temple, but that's not the karma that most of us have. Any other thoughts on this? Next verse.
Nana vichara sushranto dhiro vrishrantimagatah na kalpate na janati na shrinoti na pashyati. The wise man who has withdrawn himself from diverse reasonings and has attained complete repose, neither thinks, nor knows, nor hears, nor sees.
So it is the self that does those things or doesn't do those things. The equipment is in the world of Maya. And of course, it functions. Now, many of these verses have layers of meaning. You can interpret this verse when a person of wisdom is in samadhi, like when I was describing Swamiji in front of the television. God. But that's not the highest state. The highest state is what the scriptures call sahaja samadhi, which is natural or continuous samadhi, which is you're in the world, but not of it. You see all the phenomena, but it doesn't touch you. Next one.
Samadhera vikshepan na mumukshurna chetarah nishchintya kalpitam pashyan brahmaivaste mahashayah. Since the wise one has no agitations and does not practice meditation, he is not an aspirant for liberation, nor is he in bondage, having known the universe to be a figment of his imagination. Even though he sees it, he exists as Brahman itself.
Yeah. So he no longer meditates to get something. And we had this discussion last week about, wanting to get higher and higher bliss states and things like that. The mark of the person of steady wisdom is they have given up struggle. They've given up control. But last week I used the example, Puneet plays the guitar, and actually rather well. He played at the party Saturday night. But do you have aspirations to be, the next Krishna Das?
No, I don't.
You sure?
Yes.
But do you enjoy playing the guitar and singing?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with it. And when you feel like playing, you pick it up. And when you don't, you don't, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have you gone long periods of not touching the guitar?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. Work should be the highest form of play. Play is the highest form of work. The person of steady wisdom sports with the world. I used to love to watch Swamiji. He would laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. He just found the world very, very funny. He found people very, very funny. But he could be very serious. And he could be angry. Oh, he was thunderous when he was angry. Next verse.
Yasyanta syadehankaro no karoti sa nirahankara dhirena no kinchid kritam. He who has the ego sense in him within acts mentally, even though he does not act physically. Surely the wise one, who is free from the sense of ego, does not act mentally, even though he acts physically.
Yes. So you may be sitting in a room judging everybody, irritated and reacting, but controlling your judgment and reactions. Sitting very still, probably with a nice, peaceful smile on your face, so that you look good to everybody. So even though you're sitting still, you're acting. There's a doer. But the Jivan Mukta, like I say, she's out of control. But the divine hand is moving through her. So she's not a train wreck. It's paradoxical. Next one. How many more in this section?
There's like 100 verses in this chapter.
Oh, this is a long one. Okay, we'll do one more.
No dvignam na cha santushtam akartrit spandavarjitam nirasham gata sandeham chittam muktasya rajate. The mind of the liberated is neither troubled nor pleased. It is actionless, free from fluctuations, desireless and purged of all doubts.
Yes. So the main thing that knowledge of the self will give us is it swallows all doubt. Do you know your essential nature? Do you have any doubts about who and what you are? I have news for you. That's the only thing you're ever going to know for sure. In the beginning, we think the world is knowable and God's a mystery. And in the end, it's exactly the opposite. The only thing you will ever know for sure is I. It's the world that's the great mystery. Do you have a thought, Stephen?
That's great. No, yeah, beautiful.
All right, we'll quit here tonight. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Shishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.